The Vethkali acquisition fleet dropped out of fold space trailing their cargo train, 47 vessels in perfect hierarchical formation, cargo holds packed with 912 beings who had been given numbers in place of names. Supreme Inquisitor Generak 7 ran a hand along the ridge of his crest and examined the 3 ships blocking the transit corridor. 3. His tactical reader Threnek pulled the designations from Open Registry, working the scan panel with the practiced efficiency of someone expecting confirmation of an already obvious conclusion. UNSC Patience. UNSC Covenant's Edge. UNSC Marikar's Promise. Threnek's secondary eyes blinked in rapid succession, a Vethkali expression of barely contained amusement. Construction date, 81 standard years prior. Classification, Border Sentry. Armament class listed as, Restricted. Restricted, Generak said. The restriction is old. Pre-war era notation. Threnek looked up. Likely ceremonial. 3 ships against 47. The oldest of Generak's vessels was newer than these human relics by 3 decades. He had faced Terran naval forces before, twice in the Polari Corridor, once in the Sethan approaches. Those had been proper warships. Angular. Aggressive. Loud with power readings that made instruments scream warnings. These 3 were quiet. Not the quiet of something conserving energy. Not standby. The quiet of something that had been this still for a very long time and saw no reason to change on account of 47 acquisition ships being the reason. A single transmission arrived. Text only. No visual. No audio. Characters in standard cooperative Galactic script. Cease operations. Release your acquisition cargo. This is your only warning. Captain R.S. Dhaliwal, UNSC Patience, Sentry Flotilla 7. Generak read it twice. Then he began to laugh. Not cruelly. Genuinely. The kind that comes when a situation collapses all formal response by being too absurd to honor with seriousness. Around him, the acquisition fleet's command staff joined, Threnek, the navigation chief, 3 sub-acquisitors at their post boards. One warning, Generak said, settling back. 3 ships. One warning. He did not transmit a reply. He considered that sufficient. But Threnek had gone quiet. The younger officer was staring at his scan panel, turning something over in his mind with the expression of a man who had stopped laughing before he found a good reason to stop. Generak would remember that later, how Threnek's secondary eyes stopped blinking first. How he'd said, very quietly, Supreme Inquisitor. The Patience has not powered its weapons. 47 ships. 912 living cargo. 1 transit corridor. 3 old ships that hadn't reached for their guns. Something was wrong. Generak didn't know what yet. He told himself it didn't matter. He was still telling himself that when the second transmission arrived. The second transmission was not a message. It was a frequency package, dense, automated, continuous, broadcasting on 17 simultaneous channels. Not military bands. Not targeting locks. Generak watched Threnek break the signal down with the methodical certainty of someone buying time before delivering news they hadn't decided how to frame. They're transmitting cargo manifests, Threnek said. What? Our cargo manifests. The Patience has compiled our acquisition holds and is broadcasting the contents. Species breakdown. Individual biometric tags. Origin systems. A pause. Names. Generak felt the crest ridge along his spine flatten involuntarily. A body reflex. He controlled it immediately. To whom? All of them. Threnek's voice was careful and precise and horrible. Relay stations. Council waypoints. Every registered vessel within 40 light years. The transmission includes acquisition registry numbers traceable directly to this fleet. The Vethkali acquisition trade was not, technically, secret. The Galactic Cooperative maintained a complex, generational relationship with their industry, officially disapproving, practically dependent, politically paralyzed. 300 years of procedural objections. 300 years of no enforcement. Generac had run this corridor 19 times. The protocol was always the same. Document, review, delay, quietly forget. An information weapon, Sub-Acquisitor Vazari offered from her post board. They're creating political pressure before we transit. From whom? Generac replied. The Cooperative Council takes 18 months to convene a panel. We'll be 4 systems out before the first objection is filed. Vazari nodded. Threnek had not looked up. They're still not reading weapons hot, he said. None of the 3. Across the corridor, the patients held position. 81 years old. Running light steady. No thrust plume. No targeting sweep. It existed in the space between Generac's fleet and their destination the way old furniture exists in a room, without apology, without urgency, as though it had every right to be exactly where it was. Generac opened a channel. Sentry Flotilla. He used standard cooperative trade tongue, precisely inflected. You are outnumbered by a factor of 15. You have issued 1 warning which we decline. I hold transit authority under Standard Acquisitor Guild clearance. Stand aside. A pause. Not a network delay. A considered pause. Then a voice. Human. Male. Older. The voice of a man who had been tired for years and had made peace with it, not surrender, just accommodation. I know what your clearances say, Supreme Acquisitor. A slight accent beneath the standard inflection. A different language pressing through the cooperative trade tongue, giving the rhythm somewhere else to be. I also know you haven't looked up what sentry flotillas are authorized to enforce. I know what treaties exist, Generac said. Do you know when we signed this one? Generac did not answer. He nodded to Threnek. Threnek searched. Then searched a secondary archive tier that required a clearance code rarely used. Went deeper. Found it. The Treaty of Bound Stars. Ratified by the Terran Cooperative Authority. Date of signing. Generac read the numeral twice. 317 years ago. The Vethkali had achieved first interstellar travel 290 years ago. Humanity had signed this treaty 27 years before the Vethkali existed as a spacefaring species. A formality, Vazari said. Her voice had thinned at the edges. On the still open channel, Captain Dhaliwal said nothing further. He had asked his question. He was content to let it work in the silence between fleets, doing its patient, specific damage. Threnek looked up at last. Supreme Acquisitor, he said carefully. The treaty doesn't just cover Terran citizens. It covered everyone. That was the sentence Threnek could not finish. Generac read it himself, clear, unambiguous, drafted in the formal Terran legal style that used 40 words where most species used 4. Any sophont being held in a state of involuntary servitude, regardless of species, origin, citizenship, or current legal classification under the laws of any member or non-member state of the Galactic Cooperative, shall be considered under the protection of the Treaty of Bound Stars, enforceable by authorized sentry forces of the Terran Cooperative Authority, which retain full legal standing to intervene, interdict, and liberate by any necessary means. Any necessary means. Generac set the text down on his display. 27 years before the Vethkali had launched their first interstellar vessel, humans had written this. Not as a reaction. Not as a response to anything that had happened. As a declaration. A line drawn on a map before the map was finished. He had assumed, as most did, that the Sentry flotillas were a political gesture. Window dressing. 3 old ships running ancient corridors, filing reports no one read, enforcing words no one intended to honor. He had seen the armament classification, restricted, and read it as ceremonial. The way an old sword above a fireplace is present and harmless. He was reconsidering that. "Get me a Quisitor's crown," he said. "Heavy weapons." His flagship responded. 47 ships. Proper warships among them, the Crown, the Perpetual Gain, the Third Inheritance. Firepower enough to reduce 3 Sentry vessels to drifting scrap in 90 seconds. He was considering the order when the Patience moved. Not toward him. It didn't turn, didn't accelerate, didn't present its bow in any threatening posture. It simply changed its broadcast. The 17-channel cargo manifest transmission stopped. Something else began. Threnok's instruments spiked. Not weapons. Different, a modulated signal, tight beam, aimed not at Generac's warships but at the acquisition train's midsection. At the cargo holds. "What is that?" Generac demanded. Threnok worked the readings for 15 seconds. His crest plates shifted through 3 colors. "It's audio. The Patience is transmitting audio directly into our acquisition holds." He looked up. Into the cargo. To what purpose? Somehow, looking at that quiet 81-year-old ship holding its position with the patience of something that had done this before and would do it again, Generac already knew. Threnok confirmed it. "Speaking to them," he said. 43 languages. Simultaneously. He read, "You are not forgotten. You are registered. You will be brought home. Remain calm. We are here." 912 beings in numbered holds. 3 ships. 1 transmission. Vazari said, "We destroy the ships, the signal stops. Whatever comfort they're offering the cargo is. My daughter was born on this ship." The voice came from the still open channel. Not addressed to them, Dhaliwal seemed to have forgotten the channel was live, or decided it made no difference. He was speaking to someone on his own bridge. Quieter now. The tiredness was all the way through the words, the way cold goes all the way through old metal. 22 years, he continued. This run, or one like it. Corridor 7. Corridor 12. The Sethan approaches. The soft sound of something being set down on a surface. She got her Sentry commission last month. Marika's Promise crew. 3rd ship out there. Silence. She's 23. Generac heard this. He had no analytical framework for it. A man preparing to confront 55 warships that could reduce him to gas and memory, and he was talking about his daughter joining his service. Not defiance. Not a gambit. The kind of thing a person says when they're alone with a thought too large to hold quietly. Threnok had gone very still. Supreme Inquisitor. The 3rd ship, Marika's Promise, there's a crew manifest update this cycle. A long pause. Ensign Priya Dhaliwal. Age 23. Assigned 7 weeks ago. The Patience held its position. 81 years old. Quiet as a promise that had been kept so long it no longer needed to announce itself. In the holds of 47 acquisition ships, 912 beings listened to 43 languages tell them the same thing. Generac called an Inquisitor's crown. Then Perpetual Gain. Then all 7 dedicated warships traveling with his acquisition train. Not a bluff, a deployment. He fanned them into a wide encirclement pattern, all approach vectors covered, textbook Vethkali suppression formation. 55 ships now. 3 remained. Final notification, Generac transmitted. You are obstructing a licensed acquisition operation. You do not have the authority. Supreme Inquisitor. Dollywall's voice came back flat and certain as a load-bearing wall. "We have the only authority that matters in this corridor. You have 3 ships. We have a treaty you signed. We never signed. Your government ratified full cooperative membership 11 years ago. No heat in it." The precision of a man reading a document he has read many times. Membership carries standing treaty obligations. You inherited this one. A pause of perhaps 2 seconds. I didn't write the treaty. I just enforce it. Generac felt something shift in his chest. Not fear. Something more structural, like standing on a floor and feeling, for the first time, the faint flex that suggests the supports are older and more certain than you understood. He ordered Perpetual Gain to fire a warning shot. The energy discharge crossed the corridor in a straight line, precision shot, not aimed to hit, intended to demonstrate scale. It struck the patients directly amidships. The patients absorbed it. Not deflected. Not dispersed through a visible shield flare. Absorbed. The hull took the impact and Threnix instruments showed a microsecond of energy redistribution through the entire vessel, like watching a living thing breathe in sharply, and then readings normalized. Nothing happened. The patients did not return fire. It continued its broadcast. Generac stared. Hull composite. What is it? Threnix checked. Checked again. Registry lists it as Terran Adaptive Mesh, Generation 3. His voice had taken the quality of a man reading a word he doesn't know. I've never seen Generation 3 listed anywhere. I believe Generation 2 was current. How does it function? I don't know. The floor flexed again. Dollywall opened a channel, not to Generac. Broader. The same 17-band system, directed now at the warships in Generac's formation. Not the commanders. The crews. Generac ordered it blocked. Threnix blocked it. Signal found a secondary frequency. Blocked again. Third frequency. Dollywall's voice came through, calm as river water. In your holds right now, there are 912 living beings. Your ships transported them. Your crews loaded them. A pause. I'm asking, not the commanders, the people. Whether you know their names. Silence on the crew channels. I do, Dollywall said. I read them this morning. All 912. Takes about 40 minutes. I've done it on every interdiction run for 22 years. Something shifted in his tone, still tired, but a different tired. The kind that has found its floor and stands on it without wobbling. I read their names because the treaty asks me to. Because someone needs to know who they are before we begin. On Generac's command deck, no one spoke. You have a choice, Dollywall said. The treaty doesn't care about your reasons. It cares about what you do next. Generac closed the channel. Sat for 11 seconds. His crestplate cycled through the involuntary pattern Vethkali physiologists classified under deep reconsideration, the kind that happens not when a situation is difficult but when its foundation has moved and you hadn't noticed until you were already standing somewhere different. 55 ships. 3 ships that hadn't fired a single shot. 3 ships whose captain had read 912 names before breakfast. Supreme Inquisitor, Threnix said. Careful. If we engage, the broadcast already sent to 40 relay stations. Our registration numbers. The manifests. He let the sentence complete itself in the silence. Generac looked at the patients. It hung in the void. Old. Still. Absolutely unmoved. Still waiting. Dollywall hadn't meant to leave the crew channel open. He noticed 12 minutes into his log entry, the amber indicator in the lower left corner of his console. External audio. Open. Transmitting. He looked at it for a moment. Considered closing it. Left it. 22 years, he said, for the second time today. Not for the recording. For the ship. For the corridor. For no particular reason at all. He pulled up the list on his personal panel. Not the official manifest, that was 3 screens over. His own copy. Handwritten in the margins of the first page, above where the name started, in ink that had faded to gray over 2 decades, they were someone before this. They will be someone after. His first commanding officer had told him that. Sentry Flotilla 2, Corridor 9. Commander Osei. Grandmother of Ensign Amara Osei Bonsu currently running navigation on the Covenant's edge, 3 ships to his right. The galaxy was small, in certain ways. He scrolled through the list. 912 names. Not all complete, some were biometric tags matched to species transliteration, some just designations beings had given the intake system when it asked. Number 447 had provided their name as the one who is still here. He had written that exactly as given. He thought about Priya. She had asked him, at 12 years old, sitting in this same chair during a transit where he'd brought her aboard. Why was the ship called the Patience? He'd given her the standard line. Long watches. Quiet corridors. Sentry duty requires it. She had accepted this and then, 3 days later, returned with a different question, patience for what? He hadn't had a good answer then. He thought he did now. Patience for the generation when the corridor ran empty. When the list was shorter. When the treaty became uncontested not because of enforcement, but because no one bothered to challenge it anymore. That generation might be very far away. That was fine. The Patience would still be running the corridor. Or something that had learned from the Patience would. A voice came through the still open external channel. Unexpected. Vethkali. Not Generak, not a command officer. A crew voice. Young. How many times have you done this? Not challenging. Genuinely asking. Dhaliwal considered the question. 64 interdictions, he said. 7,214 individuals recovered. Corridor 7 accounts for about a third. Silence. Then, quietly, did they go home? Most, Dhaliwal said. Some couldn't. Some chose somewhere new. He paused. That was their choice to make. The Vethkali crew voice went quiet. Dhaliwal closed his log. Rolled his shoulders, the small, private adjustment of a man who had been sitting in the same posture for hours. He reached for his coffee. Cold. Drank it anyway. On the tactical screen, 55 ships held their positions. 3 held theirs. The corridor was very still. Generak made his decision at 0347 ship time. He didn't announce it. He simply stopped moving the formation forward. The Patience noticed, Generak never determined how, because the 3 sentry vessels had made no tactical scan of his engines, but Dhaliwal's voice returned on the open channel within 30 seconds, containing no triumph, no relief, only the specific tiredness that had been present from the beginning and had not changed at all. Supreme Inquisitor. Release the holds. Generak looked at his command deck. Threnak. Vazari. The 7 sub-staff who had sat through all of it. He opened the acquisition train channel. Disengage cargo locks, he said. All holds. Full release. The silence that followed was the silence of a calculation completing. 47 acquisition ships, by Vethkali Guild protocol, ran the confirmation cycle, captain's command, secondary officer confirmation, guild encryption key, automated hold integrity check. 4 minutes and 16 seconds. During those 4 minutes, the Patience did nothing. Neither did the Covenant's Edge. Neither did the Mariker's Promise. 3 ships. Waiting. When the hold locks disengaged, the Patience moved. Not aggressively. It slid forward with the unhurried ease of something that had done this 64 times and knew precisely how much force was necessary and used exactly that amount. The Covenant's Edge and Marikker's Promise positioned themselves alongside the acquisition train, not alongside the warships, alongside the cargo vessels, and initiated the transfer sequence. Boarding tubes. Atmosphere normalization. The soft mechanical articulation of a ship's systems performing a task they had been built and maintained to perform for 81 years, showing no strain in the doing of it. Generac watched. He watched because it was the minimum honesty available to a person in his position. The transfer took 91 minutes. 912 beings moved from numbered holds into 3 old ships that were too small for the mathematics of it but made the mathematics work anyway. Dollywall's crew had done this 64 times. They had a system. Not a single weapon fired. Not a single alarm. When the transfer completed, Dollywall transmitted one final message. Not to Generac. To the Acquisitors Crown's Guild Registry uplink. The formal record that would attach to the ship's commercial license and follow it through every port inspection for the next 40 years. One sentence. 912 persons recovered, Corridor 7, Treaty of Bound Stars, enforcement action complete. UNSC Patience, Sentry Flotilla 7. Then the Patience turned. No broadcast. No further transmission. No ceremony. It oriented itself toward the next waypoint on its patrol route and resumed course. The same course it had been running for 22 years, the same course it would run again next week. Generac stared at the space it had occupied. Threnek said nothing. At 0700 ship time, Generac found the treaty's preamble in the historical archive and read it. Not for legal analysis. He was past that. He read it the way a person reads something after they've already understood it, looking not for information but for the shape of the thinking that had produced it. We, the people of Earth, being ourselves a species that has known bondage and liberation in equal measure, and understanding from our own history that the architecture of freedom must be built before it is needed rather than after. He stopped reading. The Vethkali had held cooperative membership for 11 years. Before that, for 279 years of spacefaring history, they had operated in a galaxy where this treaty existed. Filed. Ratified. Enforced by 3-ship flotillas running ancient corridors at a fraction of a % of any military budget. No one had told them to read it. The Patience was 200,000 kilometers away now, running its patrol course, its beacon transmitting at steady intervals. 6 hours to the next Sentry waypoint. Then resupply. Then the corridor again. Generac's acquisition fleet drifted in formation. Holds empty. Transit authority technically intact. Destination legally reachable. He did not give the order to proceed. Not today. In a small space aboard the Patience, deep in the forward recovery section that smelled of recycled air and old metal and 81 years of the same work, the being registered as number 447, the one who is still here, pressed a hand flat against the hull. The ship vibrated faintly. Engines at cruise. Steady and unhurried. 3 bulkheads forward, past a narrow corridor and a coffee that had gone cold again, a tired captain updated his patrol log, cued the next waypoint, and pulled up the list for the next interdiction, already flagged, already located, 6 days ahead on the route. He read the names. All 407 of them. 40 minutes. The Patience had always had the time. The Vethkali would later claim the encounter was an ambush. That the Sentry Flotilla had concealed itself, lured them in, deployed hidden capabilities at the moment of maximum vulnerability. The humans never corrected them. Ambushes required surprise. The treaty had been there for 317 years. They had simply never read it.